Thank you very much, Polly. The BBC will rerun the landmark series I, Claudius later this month. It's based on Robert Graves' prize-winning book. The series was lauded when it was released in 1976. It depicts the viciously disputed successions and blood-spattered politics of early imperial Rome. And it inaugurated a trend for complex and morally ambiguous plot lines that still dominate television series today. To explain its significance further, I am joined by cultural historian at the University of Leeds, Dr. Philip Kiszely. Hello, Philip. Thanks for joining us on GB News.
Thanks,
tell
Michael.
Me,
it's
how,
really lovely to see you.
How good was I, Claudius? Does it stand the test of time? And was it really very influential?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at it in the context of the broader sweep of 70s drama. And I think what happens in the 70s is that drama just comes of age. The 60s is about excitement, energy, high concept series. The 70s is about maturity, complexity, and depth. And I think there's lots of reflection there too. You only have to look at the dramas around the Second World War to see that. There's a lot of coming to terms with that monumental moment in our history right through the decade. So that idea of complexity and maturity extends to the historical dramas. And you know, there are so many of them throughout the decade. This is 1976. It's a 12-part series. It's the apex of all of those kinds of things, really. And it, on the one hand, it offers an escape. Okay, you can step into your metaphorical toga. You can indulge in the murder and mayhem, but it also offers a sense of parallel as well to what's going on in that social cultural moment, that very incredibly difficult social cultural moment of the 1970s. So again, it's about complexity.
We caught glimpses there of Derek Jacobi, Brian Blessed, amongst others. Remind me, if you would, I mean, I was around at the time, but I do need reminding, what else formed part of that, I think, rather golden age of BBC drama making?
Yeah, I'd call it quality drama. Okay, so I think it starts around 1970, 1971, and a good example to start with is probably Elizabeth R, which is a great historical saga. And you come to I, Claudius, but towards the end of the 70s as well, there are series like Edward and Mrs. Simpson, and particularly Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is really about melancholy and looking back and introversion. And I think all of those things are marked and they represent really the psychological complexity of what 70s drama is all about.
Is it too much to hope that the BBC could continue to make quality drama of that sort? Or are there industry reasons why the baton has really passed to the Netflixes of this world?
I think it is too much to ask, and I'm not sure they're industry reasons, really. I think they're cultural reasons. You know, we're never going to get Civilization again, for example, on the BBC. We'll get a kind of a very poor version that was Civilizations. I don't think it's just Netflix, actually. I'm involved with the New Culture Forum, and we've just produced a series called The West, which has got lots of rave reviews and is really doing what the BBC should be doing now. I think it's identity politics more than anything that's stopping the BBC developing not only quality drama, but quality documentary as well.
Sorry, could you explain that a little bit more? Because I'm very interested in your answer, but I haven't quite followed it.
Well, I suppose Marshall McLuhan used to say, didn't he, the message is the medium. I think now the message is the ideology. And if you talk about all of the introversion, the psychology, the complexity of the 1970s, I think all of that stuff is filtered through race, gender, and sexuality now, and I think the nuance is taken away from it, and I think we're dealing in very simplistic, broad theoretical sweeps, which we didn't used to. It was about people before. It's about concepts and ideologies now.
And Philip, I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at I, Claudius again. I just wonder whether you can recommend it to viewers. But I mean, very often stuff that was made decades ago seems rather slow and ponderous to the viewer today. Has this suffered that fate, or do you think it's stood the test of time quite well?
I think it stood the test of time. I mean, the last time I watched it, I must admit, was about 20 years ago, and that was on DVD. And then I revisited it because I knew we were going to talk about it today. I think it's excellent. One of the great things about it is that it isn't just quick one scene after another and a shallow engagement with characters. I think it is slower. And I mentioned Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy just a few minutes ago, and I think that's another classic example of depth and slower storytelling, which enables you to really engage with the characters. And I think that's what we're seeing on channels like HBO and pay-per-view and things like that. You know, much more complex longitudinal narratives, which are actually much more satisfying.
Do you think there's any hope that we will see more of the old BBC output? I mean, I must say, I would very much welcome seeing Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy again. Yeah,
well, I keep mentioning it because I wrote about it a couple of years ago. But I hope so. We saw Roads to Freedom, Paths to Freedom, I think, from 1970 last year. And I was surprised that they rescreened that. I mean, the real quality of the BBC, and the reason I pay my license fee is really for the archive. And we've only got a tiny bit of it on iPlayer. So I really do hope so. I think this is being screened on BBC Four, and I think it might be on Wednesday. If the audience is big enough, and if the response to it critically and commercially is good, then yes, we will see more. So fingers crossed. Let's hope we do.
Well, I would say that we have financed it, haven't we? We were the license payers. That archive exists thanks to the money we paid over the years. And now that we have the technology, let it be opened up to us, please. Thank you very much, Dr. Philip Kiszely.